It's the Infinite Podcast. Go tell your friends. It's the Infinite Podcast. My God, it never ends. It's the Infinite Podcast with Rob and Cork the Kid.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite Podcast, the podcast covering the infinite and ever-expanding multiverse of fandom. From movies, comics, TV shows, video games, we've got you covered. I'm Rob. I'm here, as always, with Court. Court, we took a couple weeks off, but we're not lacking in the content department because we got tons of content over the last couple of weeks, and it was a lot of good stuff. So we were going to definitely talk about Invincible this week, but then Marvel decided to drop one of the best episodes of television in the last 5 to 10 years.
It was so good.
And that's honestly not an exaggeration. I wish I was exaggerating, but I really don't think I am. So we're going to talk about X-Men again.
Oh, you're not talking about Iron Fist?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not. We're going to talk about X-Men 97 again this week, specifically episode 5. We are going to do a little bit of a recap on episodes 3 and 4 also, just to round out our X-Men conversation, because we talked about the first two in pretty deep detail. So figure we'll touch upon 3 and 4 and then really dive into episode 5 because it was a really special episode of television. So we're going to do that. Cinemacon is ongoing. We have some news and notes from Cinemacon, trailer descriptions, more apt. We have some casting news, especially as it relates to the Fantastic Four, which is exciting. Some DC stuff, some Joker's back. We finally got the Joker 2 trailer, so we're going to talk about that, and a bunch of other stuff before we talk about X-Men. But first and foremost, we obviously took the last couple weeks off, but a couple weeks ago, some really horrific news emerged that Chance Perdomo from, Gen V, fame as of right now, obviously an up-and-coming actor, tragically lost his life a couple weeks ago in a motorcycle accident at the age of 27. Saying that just chills me, man. Like just horrible circumstance to lose such a promising young actor at such a young age to just a tragic incident. Car crashes, anything like that, it's just, makes your heart skip a beat because it can literally happen to any one of us at any given time. And just like that, like, it's just a promising young career just ended, and it just sucks. So obviously Amazon put out a statement, production on Gen V season 2 is put on an indefinite hold. Obviously we wouldn't expect that to resume anytime soon. And man, just terrible. We talked about Gen V a little bit on here. He was really, really good.
Yeah, he was. Yes, he was.
That character went a lot of directions I wasn't expecting. Yeah. Much like a lot of those characters in that first season, Gen V, you think they're going to fit into some type of archetype, and then they surprise you with the depth of those characters. And his character was one of those, being the son of one of the former members of the Seven, and he was being bred as like the next up, essentially, like the Nepo baby of the superhero universe. Sure. And just terrible. There's really nothing else to say. It's just a horrible situation, that you just wouldn't think to even wrap your head around, occurring. Like, it's a young man that just lost his life, and his parents, you should never have to deal with that as a parent, losing your child like that. And it's just terrible circumstance unfolding there. So we just wanted to mention that up top because obviously we were gone when that whole thing unfolded, and just bad circumstance, man. But no easy way to transition from that type of stuff. So we will move on, so we got the Joker 2 trailer, has finally been unleashed. Todd Phillips' sequel to the critically acclaimed, comic book movie. I know it's controversial to call it a comic book movie, but it is. It's based on a character from DC Comics, and we got a new Arthur Fleck is back. He's back in the
Fleck?
He's back in the zeitgeist for the first time since 2019. Honestly, it feels a lot longer than
does.
that.
It really does. It really does. And, the big sell of this movie, or the big change for this movie, is that it was going to be approached as, I wouldn't say a musical, but it's going to be approached as having a heavy musical sense, says Todd Phillips. And, I think the most important thing that this trailer needed to do was find a way to make people okay with that, the people that were on the fence. And I mean, I will just start by saying this trailer looks very good. I mean, just this movie looks visually striking out of the gate. I think that was a huge grabber. In my opinion, cinema is a two-pronged venture between auditory and visual kind of, realms that have to mesh together. So, if you can get that attention visually right out of the gate, people are automatically going to be a little bit more, digestive of the fact that this could be a musical. And, the approach is interesting too, because you're living in this realm where La La Land exists, like this modern absolute Titanic classic exists. And, obviously this is like you said, it is a comic book. It's a movie based off comic book characters, I'll say. So it's like walking on eggshells a bit for this movie. This movie seems like it has one of the biggest uphill battles of any movie that in the last couple of years. And, I feel very tense trying to talk about this trailer, because I feel like, talking about this will upset certain types of people, and then talking about it a different way will upset different type of people.
Yeah,
so
sure.
This is a very difficult one to kind of digest, but I mean, whenever that's the case, you just talk what this is about. So from what this appears, a lot of this seems like this is in Joker's mind. I do think, one of the things that people are talking about is that it seems like, possibly that is Harley real. I think Harley actually is real in this universe. She seems like a patient at Arkham.
Yeah.
Which is very, very, very interesting. I wonder if they're going to approach this in the fact that she was a psychiatrist, but then she went insane. I was hoping a little bit that Joker would kind of, bring her over to that. But Todd Phillips is a good filmmaker. I'm not as nervous as most people are, I guess. And maybe it's my love for La La Land. Maybe it's my love for Joaquin Phoenix as an actor. Yeah. I do quite like Lady Gaga as well too. So I am looking forward to this.
I'm also looking forward to it. I think this movie, the first movie in particular, was able to really successfully stave off the purists.
Sure.
Like they kept trying to knock the door down, but this movie was just relentless and basically telling us, no, we're going to make a movie, we're going to focus it around this character, but we're going to do a bunch of different stuff. And we're going to present this character in a totally different way from how he's been presented. And just movie, the second one appears it's going to take that premise even further. And I think that's really, really cool. Like if you're going to subvert the genre, subvert the characters of the genre, come with a solid premise, come with a unique idea and let it fly. Right. And I think Joaquin Phoenix is the perfect avatar for that, much like he was in the first movie. He's experimental. He gives his all into every performance. Yeah. Yep. We've seen him do a musical film before. Yeah. Yep. He did Walk the Line, in which he did all the voice work and performances. Like it wasn't a typical biopic where they do much like Bohemian Rhapsody, where they just do the vocal dubbing over the songs. Like Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon really performed for Walk the Line, and I'm assuming that's going to be the same case here with he and Lady Gaga, whatever music they perform together. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. We got the steps. We got another wacky stairs dance recreated with the two of them, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what comes from the minds of Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix and the rest of this crew, because the first movie was really unsettling, and it was very weird and creepy and really well done. So I'm looking forward to it.
I guess what I'll leave with is I do hope this movie does one thing. I do think they need to start presenting Joker as more of a villain itself. I think that's the step this needs to take, is let him succumb to, let him leave Arthur Fleck and let him succumb to being the Joker. I think that's the most important thing about this movie.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yep.
I think that would be a glorious turn, and I hope people aren't confused that he is the villain. We didn't forget about that in the first movie,
right?
So.
Sticking with the DC stuff, so Superman, a little bit of Superman stuff. So the logo, we know what the logo is. For sure, it's that the Kingdom Come inspired kind of but it's a yellow and red palette, obviously, instead of the black and red palette from Kingdom Come. And for Supergirl, Tanya's Craig Gillespie is apparently going to direct the Supergirl movie.
Yeah. Yep, I'm in. I mean, addressing Superman first. I mean, the more and more time passes, and they keep kind of giving us a little bit more. James Gunn's a very active person on social media, so I again, all signs point positively for me, and I agree. There's just this feeling that I'm gonna get that this movie is gonna be so important for the time. This movie is gonna come out in July 2025, and whatever the source material may be, I mean, this cast looks really good. I mean, James Gunn, Guardians 3 visually looked very good. That I knew that crew was kind of had to operate at another level, and he's bringing over most of those people as well too. Down to your composer, down to your cinematographer, you're bringing everybody over, and again, I always said it. The fact that he was able to make me feel emotion from a raccoon and a tree and from John Cena. So that's a three-headed monster. I mean, I'm just not nervous about this. I just feel like whatever you're still going to get your weird James Gunnisms, for lack of a better term, but there's just something about this movie that once we get that first look, I just feel like it's just going to be like, this movie's going to be more than just the source material that it is. It's going to be like, again, it's going to be the modern age of what, the core main superhero storytelling will be. And, we're going to talk about more of that when we talk about the Fantastic Four on the Marvel side of things. And then X-Men, obviously, too. So I don't know if you're getting this feeling, but I feel like we're at like, how comics changed? So it's, what does it go? The Silver Age into the Golden Age, whatever it went. I feel like we're at the precipice where it's going to turn into I think the Silver Age was second. I think that's what we're going to try to turn into. So that's right around when Jack Kirby left DC. I keep making this comparison for James Gunn. It's right when Jack Kirby left Marvel to go to DC. And then just funny enough, James Gunn leaves Marvel to go to DC and takes an elevated role. It's the same thing that Jack Kirby did. So I just have a feeling that this universe is going to work as long as, you let the creators cook. I'm a big proponent of that. We're going to talk about Fallout as well, too. That's something where, we see it. We see when you let the people do the thing. X-Men 97, it's very apparent that when you let somebody, when there's no studio oversight saying you need to do this to sell something or it's usually a win. So
yeah, I'm excited for it. The cast, obviously, we spoke about them when they all got casted, but now that thinking about it and letting it really sink in, it lets it reminds you of how impressive the cast is.
Corn Sweat looks yoked. He looks like he's ready
Nicholas
for this.
Hoult,
It's funny. That might be my favorite casting out of all this so far.
Rachel Brosnahan, Lois Lane, Millie Alcock, Supergirl. I mean, you and I both sung her praises when we talked about House of the Dragon, and so excited for her getting this opportunity to Supergirl. So, I'm sharing in your optimism as this draws more near. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that for sure. We can talk about just a couple random news and notes from Cinemacon. This isn't necessarily Cinemacon, but worth noting. So Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan working on this vampire period piece, and now has Hailee Steinfeld.
Right.
Good.
Yeah, good.
We spoke about Ryan Coogler's track record at this point, and it's flawless. Mm-hmm. For lack of a better word. So anything that guy touches, I'm there. I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, off of four Hollywood features, and look what you've done in four movies. And we always say that fact that he's only made 4 movies so far. He's only made 4 movies big, because Fruitvale Station wasn't a big movie, but he's made 4 movies. And, I listened to him on the Team Dakins podcast a couple months ago. I just love him love hearing him talk about film. There's a couple people where I can listen to. Greg Fraser's one of them, that I can just listen to you talk about films for hours and never get bored of it. He's such a lover of the craft, but he's such an innovative, he's an innovative conduit to the craft as well too, and he's so smart about it. So there's this level of human nature, which on paper seems like, hey, it's a movie, well, you probably should do that, but it's fully realized for him too. And I mean, you dive back into scenes that he puts in movies. You know what scene I think about a lot that he did? It's the Creed 1 scene where Donnie gets hit, Donnie hits the canvas, and he's thinking about every piece of his life. And it's not until he sees Apollo where he's standing, it's just music cuts, just little stuff like that. And I mean, I just want to see what they're doing with this movie. I want to see how big of a role that Michael B. Jordan takes, behind the scenes as well too. Obviously, coming off of Creed 3, you got to think there's going to be a level of trust there too.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. I know Delroy Lindo is also going to be in this movie too, which is a huge add. So there's this movie, again, it's all sides point north. I think this movie's got a lot going for it. And we'll see, once we get that first look, I'm actually going to be very, very excited about this.
Yep. 100%. I'm 100% in. So yeah, Cinemacon, man, just bouncing around because it's honestly hard to corral all the Cinemacon news, especially in this moment, because Disney did their thing, and I feel like that's all kind of what everyone is talking about right now. Yeah. So we'll save the Disney stuff for the end. But I guess the other kind of company that broke through was Paramount. Paramount kind of broke through this. So some Paramount things. We got apparently a first look at Transformers 1, which is the new animated movie that it's kind of the pass the torch in terms of the voice acting, as Chris Hemsworth will be Optimus Prime and Brian Tyree Henry will be Megatron. So I'm curious to see how that goes. I'm curious to see how especially Chris Hemsworth goes about it, because I feel like there's very few voice roles in animation that kind of are these legacy roles, and how do you go about differentiating yourself from the standard bearer? I mean, we saw this a lot with Batman, with Kevin Conroy. Like, anyone who stepped into the Batman animated role kind of had to put their own kind of spins on it, and a lot of them have been really successful. Jensen Ackles has been successful as Batman. Roger Craig Smith, obviously,
that was the one that I was going to think about.
Troy Baker took his crack at Batman.
How could you not, for Troy Baker? So
and they all managed to differentiate themselves from the iconic Kevin Conroy voice. So I'm curious to see how Chris Hemsworth goes about, because different from Batman, Optimus Prime has always been Peter Cullen since the 80s. Peter Cullen, the legendary Peter Cullen, has voiced Optimus Prime, whether it's live action, whether it's video games, animated TV shows, commercials. Peter Cullen has always been Optimus Prime. So not that I don't think Chris Hemsworth's not up to the task. I think he absolutely is. I'm just curious to hear how that Optimus voice sounds, man. Keegan-Michael Key is Bumblebee, which I think is a great choice. And we'll see, man. I'm pretty excited for it. Speaking of Transformers, though, if you were here for our Rise of the Beasts spoiler cast, which is a handful of years ago now, I can't even remember at this point.
Oh, it was September, I believe.
If you stuck around for that end credits stinger, you would see that Anthony Ramos's character was ingratiated into the program known as G.I. Joe, and everyone went, "Oh boy, is this actually going to happen?" And it is. Paramount is going to officially make a Transformers G.I. Joe live action crossover movie. Sure. Yeah.
I guess the only question I have is, I know the director of Rise of the Beast is getting his own trilogy. I wonder if this movie, A, is in the trilogy, B, is it going to be separate from the trilogy and they're going to give it to somebody else, or if this is going to be the culmination film of this trilogy. That's kind of my questions.
I imagine just because Rise of the Beast was the one that introduced this stinger, I imagine this has to be involved in it in some form or fashion. I imagine Anthony Ramos must come back.
Yeah, sure.
Anthony Ramos will return. And yeah, we'll see how this goes. I mean, we'll see. Everyone's got to take a crack at a shared universe thing at some point, so Hasbro might as well do theirs. We'll see how it goes. It might be diminishing returns, but who knows? the MonsterVerse is being expanded.
Yes, yep.
So Monarch, what's up, Monarch?
Legacy of Monsters, yep.
Which I have not seen personally.
Yeah, I've seen clips, and I've
heard it's very good.
Yeah, I've heard it's. I mean, Apple TV is
Yeah.
really producing a lot of good stuff. I mean, the two studios that should be very proud of themselves over the last couple of years should be Amazon and Apple TV. They've produced a lot of good stuff. I mean, Severance is an Emmy winner on the Apple TV side of things, and then obviously the Amazon TV has just been full of hits over the last couple of years. So
Sure. So that's super cool. And then the thing that I'm most interested in, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles live action movie based on The Last Ronin.
Look, I'm going to say the thing that you told me not to say, but I'm going to say it. Do the Bayverse, cowards, and have that be the Last Ronin movie where it exists. And let Michael Bay do the movie.
Whoa!
No, I'm kidding. Let Roland Emmerich do the movie.
It's too small scale for him.
Yeah. Can I blow up a planet? No, I don't want it.
I'm not in. He's the anti-Gareth Edwards.
He really is. I want $100 million for the budget. Gareth Edwards said, "Give me $48."
But this is super cool, man. I mean, I'm of two minds of this. One, I think it's really cool. Just base concept. This story, if you have not read it, is really, really great. The premise is a surviving member of the Ninja Turtles is the last one remaining after the Foot Clan essentially wiped out the rest of the Turtles, Master Shredder, Casey Jones, all that stuff. So there's one surviving turtle that...
Should we spoil who the turtle is?
Spoilers for the story if you don't know the twist. Although a lot of people do, but it's Michelangelo.
Which makes the absolute most sense. You leave the little brother to be the one that has to avenge his family. That makes just the most sense.
And it's exactly what it sounds like. He's the last of the turtles, and he goes on. He's consumed by vengeance, and it's Shredder's grandson. I can't remember. That he goes after, and he eventually the vengeance consumes him, and it's really, really good. I am worried about this falling into gritty reboot trap syndrome.
I'll even go further with that fear. It's gritty reboot trap with the studio oversight on top of it. That's what I'm truthfully afraid of.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. That's where my concerns are. Like, I'm worried that they're gonna get the wrong point from this and be like, no, it's gotta be dark and edgy. No, and it is that, but it's more emotional than that. Like, it's more emotional than just the lone gunslinger vengeance, I'm an edgelord now thing. Like, it's beyond that. Like, they really have to explore the psychology of Michelangelo and how he, how the loss of each of those brothers takes its toll, because they don't all get wiped out at the same time. It's different things. Like, Raph gets taken out going after Shredder. After Shredder takes out Splinter, Raph goes on a mission to kill Shredder, and that's how Raph dies. And then Donatello and Leonardo get caught up in an explosion that kills the both of them. So it's sequential. It's not like they all get wiped out. Michelangelo's, and then Michelangelo is at his lowest. He literally goes to commit suicide, the samurai version of suicide. And he survives. He's discovered by a surviving April O'Neil who finds him, and she kind of come on, get back out there, man. And that's when he takes up the mantle of the Last Ronin and embarks on his mission. So there's a lot of ways they can go about this. I just hope they lean into it, as difficult as you feel it might be as a studio to get some emotional resonance out of a turtle. You can do it. You can do it. And you can make it really good. So we'll see how that goes. Any more Paramount stuff?
Damien Chazelle's finally getting another movie. That was the thing that excited me. I just listened to the Talking Pictures podcast a few days ago. That's been running pretty well from Max, which is awesome. And, one of the things that Damien talked about is, or not Damien, but it's kind of been, said that he it's feeling like he's been in director jail, which is crazy because he made one of the absolute modern classics, which is La La Land. I mean, you have Whiplash, La La Land, First Man under your belt, and Babylon, and nobody wants to make your movie is absurd. So I'm super glad that he's getting to make a movie again. I mean, he is truthfully one of the modern age auteurs that we have as a filmmaker, and he's just apparently this film is set in a prison and it's written directed by him. So he's to me he's one of those filmmakers where he makes something, you're there. That's just in that. Then he earned that, and he earned it after Whiplash, but it was cemented after La La Land. So
yeah. The other Paramount stuff. So Glenn Powell is going to be starring in a Edgar Wright-driven remake of the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic, The Running Man. Yep.
Glenn Powell is a movie star.
All of those words that I just said, I'm in.
Yep. I believe this is Edgar Wright's first movie since Baby Driver. I don't think he's made a movie since. I think it's going to be like 8 years in between him having a movie in theaters, which is nuts for Edgar Wright. But I'm super glad that he's back. Also, and you want to talk about Glenn Powell? I mean, apparently what I'm hearing too is that Twisters isn't just some stupid dumb tornado movie. I'm hearing that Twisters has actually got a bit of cinema in it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So obviously led by Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar Jones and Anthony Ramos. But Glenn Powell is getting critical acclaim for Hitman with Richard Linklater, their second movie together. So I keep banging the drum for Glenn Powell, but that is a movie star that we're witnessing right now. Like he is,
you're right.
The way that we've been talking about like Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya and Austin Butler. Glenn Powell is also there. Like what did I say? He kind of reminds. I mean, obviously this is going to sound convenient because of Top Gun, but he feels like a mix between Kevin Bacon and Val Kilmer to me. Like he's just like he's a great high energy. You can put him in a funny setting. You can put him in a serious setting. You can put him in a period setting, and he'll play. So I think that's somebody that studios are going to be an actor that studios are going to be chomping at the bits to get. The next studio I do think he will work for is Warner Brothers for DC. I do think that they are going to make sure they get him something. Hopefully that thing will make him Hal Jordan. I just think that's a good choice to lock him down for years to come. I just think him, being adjacent to like David Cornsweet, obviously, who plays Batman in the DCU has been the hot ticket item. If it is Gyllenhaal, I think that's a great choice. If it's Alan Ritchson, that's a good choice. But, Glenn Powell is him. I can't say much more. I'm super excited for that. Super excited for Edgar Wright to make another movie, too.
Yeah. Gladiator 2.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's what I've been waiting to talk about.
Heard some Gladiator 2 buzz coming off of CinemaCon. Basically kind of a...
Your artsy girlfriend's celebrity crush, Paul Mescal's there.
Yep. Kind of what his deal is. He's a noble who has renounced his status and is following the steps of Maximus from the first Gladiator movie, which is this movie will take place 20 years after the first one. I think this movie's gonna be super good.
Right. Well, he's the kid, right? He's the kid from Gladiator 1. Which I wish they would have just got the actor, because he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, he's actually still an actor, so...
Right.
a little piece of me wishes they still would have kept him, but obviously, this movie is just... It's got everything going for... I mean, Denzel... Wait, did Denzel drop out? Denzel's still in this movie, or he dropped out, right? He's still in this movie, right? So, I mean... You got Paul Mescal, Denzel Washington,
Pedro Pascal,
and Pedro Pascal it's confirmed he is the main villain of this movie.
Which good.
I want to see him as a conniving little piece of crap. I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
What I wonder, I do have a feeling that Denzel is going to probably play sort of like a mentor figure. I just feel like that's where this is pointing, in my opinion. But I'm just looking forward to this. I kind of like the way Ridley Scott's career is going, because he's in his mid 90s and he's just like, people are just like, well, Napoleon wasn't accurate. He's like, I don't care. Shut up, nerds.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
But, even funny aside, I mean, Ridley Scott is, he is one of the greatest filmmakers to ever walk this planet.
Yes.
And this is a property that he holds near and dear. I mean, that first Gladiator movie is it's one of the best films that's ever been made. So
we'll do a thing on that.
Yeah, I think that'd be a fun little us talking about some straight cinema. We don't do that a lot, talk about just straight cinema here.
Yeah.
But that would be a fun one to do. And just kind of talking about, Ridley Scott's career as a whole. I mean, dipping into any genre he can do. And, he's proved himself to be somebody that you just trust, and that a studio can be like, well, redo the sequel almost 30 years later and nobody's going to say anything about it. Do what you got to do.
And then before we get to the Disney stuff, Sonic 3 was shown off, a little bit of Sonic footage. So we got Shadow versus Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails. We got Shadow versus Sonic in New York. And interestingly enough, we did not get a confirmation of who Shadow's voice actor is.
Because it's Hayden Christensen and they won't tell us.
I think it might be. That was a hot rumor that kind of came out of nowhere. And I think that would be super cool.
I think that would be amazing.
I quite like the second Sonic movie. I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Historically, Jim Carrey doesn't do sequels, but he has now done 2 Sonic sequels.
Yeah. I just think he's kind of locked in at this point.
So I think that's super cool. And then, we'll just hit the Disney, mostly Marvel stuff. Because, I don't know. I mean, we got some Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes stuff. We got some Inside Out stuff. We got some Moana 2 stuff. We got some Alien stuff. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Ridley Scott, we get some Alien stuff.
People apparently are liking that.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yep. Aliens back.
Oh, one of the big things was Mickey 7. I would be remiss if I didn't get to talk about Bong Joon-ho for a second. So, the first details about Mickey 7, Robert Pattinson was there, which, everybody liked that. Everyone liked that.
Yep.
So it's described as like a weird sci-fi dramedy, essentially. And
awesome.
He's the same person that he's like a hitman also, almost, that gets killed over and over again. But accidentally 2 of them exist at the same time. They got to do the Spider-Man meme.
Yeah.
And then they say one clone is like an evil brother. And I mean, look, I'm going to keep this very simple. You just say the name Bong Joon-ho, I'm in. At this point, he made one of the best movies of the 21st century. I'm in. There's no if, and, or but about it, so.
Yeah. Marvel. Well, Star Wars.
Yeah,
Star Wars.
Yeah, right. The little studio that's Disney.
Star Wars first, just real quick. Star Wars, Mandalorian's coming out May 25th of next year.
Mandalorian and Grogu. What a title.
They had to say Pedro Pascal is returning as Din Djarin.
We know.
Is he going to be in the suit? Who knows? Probably not. Mail it in, Pedro.
Mail it in. You're busy.
Yeah, you're real busy, my friend. So that was pretty much it for Star Wars. Marvel. So Thunderbolts with an asterisk is coming out.
Yeah.
The asterisk is important, says Kevin Feige.
Because those are going to be the Avengers that they keep saying. Did I spoil us talking about Captain America, Brave New... Oh, sorry. What is it? Brave New World?
Brave New World, yeah. So Kevin Feige said, you will know the meaning of the asterisk after Thunderbolts comes out. Interesting. The man's building intrigue for an asterisk now. That's where we're at. But yeah, we did get some Captain America 4 stuff. Got a scene, got a teaser. Harrison Ford and Anthony Mackie squaring off. Mm-hmm. Shut up and dribble. Anthony Mackie says
that was
Harrison
crazy.
Ford.
That was nuts.
We got a real weird picture of Anthony Mackie looking bamboozled.
Yeah.
Holding the shield.
He was beside himself in that picture.
We got kind of a couple descriptions of things where they kind of get into a spat. Thunderbolt Ross is like, why don't you do the Avengers again? And Anthony Mackie is like, don't tell me what to do, Harrison Ford.
I got my friend Joaquin, and
then Isaiah Bradley apparently is going to show up in this.
And try to kill politicians.
Good. Good is what I say.
So he tries to kill the politicians, and then he jumps out of a window.
Is he supposed to be the villain?
Probably not, but apparently probably has the Winter Soldier brainwashing.
They Winter Soldiered him. Dang it.
Now he has to go to Wakanda to figure it out.
What do you mean by that?
They figured it out for Bucky. I didn't mean anything.
That was really it for Captain America. Deadpool, Wolverine, we got some, they showed off, I guess, the first 9 minutes, and it's quippy, and it's fun, and there's curse words.
That's Deadpool to a T. You figured it out.
Nailed it.
Anybody can make a Deadpool movie.
Look, man, they're super excited about this movie.
Yeah, I think they got to, I think all the punches they held in Multiverse of Madness, they're going to swing on in this movie.
They seem to be super happy with this movie. So much so that Kevin Feige's super excited about it. Sean Levy's apparently been fielding calls about future Marvel things.
Yeah, I think they did. I think all the things that you think they might have done, I think they probably did it.
So it feels like this movie is going to be a thing. It's going to be something. Beyond just... I mean, look, strip away all the buffoonery in the Deadpool movies. They're just good. They're just good movies.
If you're nothing without the quippy natures and the cameos, then you shouldn't have it. Whatever Tony Stark was yapping about in Homecoming.
That second one is still really funny. What is going on here?
So too bad, Wolvie. I die in this one too.
This is my girlfriend, you intolerant shit. Chill out, Fox and Friends.
Everything except for the TJ Miller stuff. All good.
Yeah. So we got them look at that, and then Fantastic Four is going to be shot in IMAX.
It's going to be shot in IMAX.
Yep.
It's in an alternate New York in the 1960s.
Yep.
A retrofuturism.
And
Silver Surfer is in the movie.
It's a lady Silver Surfer.
Which shouldn't upset anybody, because it's not a real person that exists in real life.
So Julia Garner of Ozark fame is going to be the Silver Surfer. In
Shala Ball.
Yeah. Different Silver Surfer. Lady Silver Surfer.
All right. Let's. All right. I think there's 3 things to address. Number 1, it's okay. You guys will live. It's okay. It's all right. Because my second point, it's an alternate universe. They're not in the main MCU. So that was the confirmation. That kind of gave us the confirmation. This is not the main MCU.
Yeah.
Galactus is going to be the villain of this movie. To the point where Marvel put out the statement that says you're going to want to read these comics before you watch this.
I thought that was super cool.
They did the coming of Galactus was one of them. I forget which. Fantastic Four. What is that? It's 50 something, I think, or 40 something. They did that. They did a Fantastic Four life story, which was very, very interesting. And if, I'm not as surprised as I guess some other people were, but you put Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. You didn't think he was going to be a dad. Franklin Richards and Valeria Richards are going to be in this movie. I didn't know that was going to cause any, confusion or surprise. I'm just not surprised. I thought that was going to kind of be common knowledge that they were going to be in this movie, but more power to us. That's going to be awesome. I can't wait for that. So I'm obviously I'm looking forward to this movie. The Fantastic Four, some of the most famous comic book characters that you can ask for. They are earth shakers when it comes to comic books. And what you can pull from this movie is you could pull a bit of cinema. I kept telling you this. There's
a proper gravitas to what's going on with this movie. I feel like
you're shooting it in IMAX, which that might become a standard for big budget Hollywood movies going forward. I have a feeling this might be the new thing.
The new 3D.
The new 3D is just shoot the thing in IMAX and then say you shot the thing in IMAX and everybody's gonna be, ooh, we gotta see this. But cast is great. We're acting like Julia Gardner's not a good actress. She's phenomenal. I mean, what we could really get out of this movie is just some grandeur, some stakes, hopefully, obviously with the coming of Galactus. I do think this movie's going to end with them coming into the main 616. That's probably going to be coming into the modern age. And then they're going to be the ones that bought Stark Tower, We don't want your alternate future money. Keep it. Yeah. But yeah, this movie, I'm still fenced about this. I'm still fenced about where Marvel's at right now. I'm still, I still got to see it to believe it. Yeah. That we're at a semblance, but these are the days that are good days for Marvel. These are the days you need. You do need days like this where it's just all right, it's not as bad as everybody thinks. So maybe this will help us get some main character syndrome back. Yeah. Because I keep ringing the bell about this. We need some people to follow. It's like storytelling the 101. Who are we following? Yeah, and you know who all the compelling ones are right now? They're all 2-dimensional. They are all 2-dimensional. So maybe give them some stuff to do. So.
And then you thought we were gonna escape this Marvel stuff without talking about Daredevil? Nope. So some Daredevil things happened over the last couple of weeks. John Bernthal just doesn't give a crap anymore about anything. He's like, here's all the photos.
Here's all the photos. I'm on set. I'm in it.
I'm the Punisher.
Russo.
So he's been just taking photos willy-nilly with Charlie Cox and Deborah Ann Wall, and he's like, look at all my friends. Yeah. Look, all my friends are back. I like the Daredevil suit, man.
Yeah, it's good. It's red.
It's real red.
Real red.
They kept for people, idiots who were upset or worry that they were going to change the Punisher logo to be like the new Punisher logo, the new weird looking one? It's not. It's the regular one from the TV show with the big skull. And then so Islet Zurer is returning as Vanessa. Mm-hmm. After we were told a different person was going to be playing Vanessa.
I know Vincent D'Onofrio walked into Kevin Feige's office.
Come in.
Picked him up.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
You seem upset, Vincent. I don't have Vanessa. Are you doing Fisk right now? Why are you not Vincent D'Onofrio? This is weird. That's exactly in my mind how this conversation went.
You embarrassed me in front of new Vanessa. I need old Vanessa. So she's back.
She is back. It's awesome.
Marvel has officially. If you thought they backtracked before, they super duper backtracked now. Mm-hmm. They fired the new person, we're like, we're just gonna do the old person.
Yeah,
you know the thing from the thing that everyone likes. We're just gonna do that. Yeah. Do more of that.
Now you know what's funny? I'm getting more and more interested what the first version of this Daredevil show was. Like, the more that they keep like, wait, maybe we should just probably make Daredevil season 4
because everybody's back now. They completed it. Yeah.
Maybe they should have done in the first place.
Yeah.
They said Daredevil wasn't going to suit up for 5 episodes or 6 episodes. And
I need a documentary on the original set.
They fired everybody. Everyone.
From the top down.
Yeah. Do you think they were watching They were like, wait a minute. What? Why don't we have all these people here?
They fired everyone from top down and were like, quick. Get John Byrne.
Quick, what's the biggest fix? And like the intern stood up and said, did you guys watch Daredevil season 1, 2, and 3? And they were like, oh, make that kid the new CEO of Marvel.
They backtracked so far, they were like, we're going to put a Punisher arc in our thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seems like what they're going to pull from heavily is the Chip Zdarsky run of Daredevil. It seems like they're going to do an amalgamation of like Mark Waid's run and the Chip Zdarsky stuff. I mean, the Chip Zdarsky stuff is just very accessible. Yeah. I do think that Daredevil is going to end up in jail too. I do think that's going to be a thing.
His natural place.
Yeah, his natural habitat. Do you bring Elektra back? That's like the one that I'm thinking about. I do think you just should. If you're all in on everybody coming, and what's it called? What's her name? Too was on set. Jessica Jones also was on. Kristen Ritter also was on set as Jessica Jones. Like they're just doing this is just Daredevil season 4. Yeah, and good. That's exactly what it should have been.
Yeah. I agree. Like, look, we have our Punisher arc ourselves, right. And it's going to be the Punisher versus the police.
It's the police that it's basically like the Sons of Batman or whatever. Crap. Yeah. It's the same thing.
Look, we can do Punisher skulls, and Punisher's like, whoa,
I'm back. I'm going to shoot people now.
1 batch, 2 batch, penny and dime.
People are dead.
Whatever I said.
Yeah.
Is he going to say it? Of course he's going to say it, right?
I mean, he used it to tweet about that he's back. and John Berthol's such a menacing human being that Kevin Feige couldn't even yell at him.
Let me tell you something.
Let me tell you. Hey, brother. Let me tell you something.
Bro's always trying to tell us something.
Yeah. What's bro yapping about? What is that? Oh, you better say that when he sees one of the cops wearing the Punisher. What is that?
What is that? Where's your accent from, John Bernthal? Your accent's the same in every show.
But it's like what is it, like gritty inner city America with a dash of Italian? Like, what's the accent? Like,
I don't know, but it's the same. Man. It's just when he's Shane, there's just a little southern twang that he puts on.
And then when he's Punisher, it's like New Jersey. Like, I don't know.
Let me tell you something, Rick. Why is he still coming? He can't see, right? Why is he still coming?
What is that?
He yells at Karen.
Why is he still coming?
He can't see. What? No, as he's shooting Luke Cage.
Why is he still coming? Iron Fist come back, probably.
Finn Jones tweeted a thing. He put an Iron Fist comic in a duffel bag and was like, huh?
Yeah, Kristen Ritter was on set. Like, they're all coming back.
They're all coming back for little things. Finn Jones is probably just going to be in Shang-Chi, though, right?
I mean, if they were smart, I keep saying it. It's such a simple way to give him credibility back and make him cool. Yeah. Obviously, Daniel Destin Cretton really understands how to make a movie. Really understands how to make an action movie. He did a great. I rewatched Shang-Chi the other day. Every time I watch that movie, I'm like, do more of this. Like, this is like this was one of the things when everybody's like Phase 4 is bad. This was one of the things that was actually very good. So, do more of that. Put Finn Jones back in there. Yeah. And we've been saying this for a while. People act like Finn Jones is a bad actor. Like, we saw him in Game of Thrones. He is not a bad actor at all. Yeah. Put him back. Guess what you do? put him in the goddamn suit. Put him in the suit. Give him the head scarf.
Give him the headscarf.
Give him the white suit.
Ooh, the white suit.
And you do the War of the Seven Cities, and then you just have Tallow be one of the cities, and then, and then all the movie has to be is they punch for a bit, then they're mates. That's all the movie is. It's very simple.
Yeah, I think using this Daredevil show as like a launch point for all these different characters and re-ingratiating them into the greater MCU is a really smart idea, but don't make Daredevil get lost in the whole thing.
Because I have to, well, obviously, spoilers for Echo, but Fisk is going to be they're going to do obviously the big thing that I think they're going to try to do out of
Street
all this.
Thanos.
Right, well, they're going to do Devil's Reign. That's going to be they're going to try to outlaw vigilantism, which should lead into Spider-Man, which Daredevil obviously is going to be in that movie. But
they're making Street Thanos.
They are making Street Thanos.
Thanos for the streets.
Remember when Fisk looked at his memories and then he got in his car and Echo and just drove away? And that's how the show ended? That was crazy.
Don't bring me back to that place. What did you do? And he just left.
He just left. That was it. He just got in his Escalade and left. That was the whole villain battle at the end.
And he didn't learn a lesson.
No, he did. I kept saying that. What happened? The show just ends.
He was like...
I knew I was the monster. That's not an arc.
You killed your father.
Yeah, we talked about this multiple times.
And you feel bad about it? No.
Yeah, it's I don't know, man.
Did you see? I mean, she was kidding, but did you see she wants Echo to fight Green Goblin?
That would be kind of funny.
That would be kind of funny. I'd be on board for that.
See, this is why I love comics and how stupid they are. Just the movies need to do more of this stuff. Have weird characters fight weird characters that don't mean anything to each other.
Coward. Oh man, none of his tactics would work on her. He can't yap at her.
Yeah, can't yap at her. Because I love the way that Echo looks at people that are just yapping. It's always like, are you for real?
He can throw a bomb at her, I guess. That's his opening move, usually.
Throw one bomb?
Throw a goblin bomb. That's usually... And then he cackles and flies away. Godspeed, Spider-Man.
And then he starts yapping.
He's always got a witty one-liner.
Yeah.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
Misery, misery, misery. That's what you've chosen. Was he wrong?
Nope. Speaking of misery, X-Men.
Yeah.
Whoa, man. Boy, howdy. So this show's just been cooking since it came out. We talked about episodes 1 and 2. We talked about how good those were. We talked about Ray Chase. We talked about Magneto being him. He cut his sleeves off, put a big M on his chest, and the M stands for my, am I not him? Because he is him. So we left, where did we leave episode 2? Big plot twist. There's another Jean Grey.
There is another Jean Grey.
And then episode 3 just wraps that up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. You want to talk about Saturday? They said, we're going to mix, these big, adult themes with Saturday morning cartoons. Let's figure that. You know who did that the best? Power Rangers did that the best.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this up.
Episode 3, big cliffhanger. Episode 2, there's 2 Jean Greys. Episode 3 comes up and Beast is like, she ain't real.
She ain't real.
Beast, time and place, Beast.
Yeah.
Time and place.
Shut up, Hank. That's our whole thing about Hank in this show is shut up, Hank, you nerd.
So, yeah, he outs her. He's like, this Jean Grey that showed up at the door, she's the real Jean. She has a ponytail. She's the real Jean Grey. This other one is a fraud.
You're a fraud, Spider-Man.
And then she has an existential crisis. She's like, wait, I'm a fraud. I can't be a fraud. And then Mr. Sinister shows up and he's like, you are a fraud, actually.
Can I have your kid, please? And no. Madeline, he said, can I have your kid? And Madeline's like, no. And he said, please. And she's like, ugh.
What if I turned you into the Goblin Queen? Snap.
She's like, you can have
And then she got real evil real fast.
Yeah. It was lightning levels of becoming, not even Anakin Skywalker became that evil that fast.
And it was good stuff. I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
I love what this show is doing. So each episode, this show picks a character. There's a dartboard in the office.
Yes.
And they throw it at the character and they said, you're going to cook in one of these scenes.
Correct.
In episode 3, it got to be Bishop, which was the coolest thing.
Yeah. Hit me.
Hit me, Cyclops.
Boom.
This show... I'm gonna ask you one word to sum up this show after we talk about episode 5, but
okay.
Episode 3, it's well balanced. This is like a horror episode, which is cool.
Yeah, it's a huge horror episode. So yeah, they're in the expansion, and then all of a sudden, whoa, spooky time! It's Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister's tormenting the X-Men, and you know what? Guess who's not down with it? Magneto.
Yeah, Magneto, and I love Magneto's whole approach. Like,
we're ending this.
Yeah, can we just kill this man? Like, why do you guys still have to deal with this guy? He's not even like, he's like a fake mutant almost. He's not even cool, guys.
Yeah, like, Magneto's like, we're just gonna kill him, aren't we?
No, you can't do that. And he said, why? How many mutants has he murdered?
Charles left me to be a problem solver. I'm solving this problem.
All I'm saying is, Charles let a lot of things go for a long time. That's all I'm saying.
And now, if this is the consequences of my own actions. Because now, guess what? There's 2 Jean Greys running around.
And one of them's mad evil. And the other one can't remember anything, so she's useless.
Well, she finds it. She finds it.
Yeah, well, third act resolution.
She finds it. They go to rescue the child. This clone arc takes a turn. In a good way.
Yeah.
Because Madeline Pryor, she still kind of cares about Scott.
Well, Jean goes back into her memories and, kind of removes the Sinister stuff from there, which is great. You don't want Mr. Sinister running amok in your mind.
No.
So.
And they kind of, I wouldn't say they bond. They bond a little bit.
Yeah, they bond over trauma, essentially. They bond over shared traumas that they both experienced and,
None of us asked for this.
Yeah, none of us. We're gonna get big time for that in a little bit, but
so Sinister infects Nathan with a techno-organic virus.
Whoa! You're the techno-organic virus from Marvel Comics, aren't you?
That baby's gonna become Cable.
No, he's gonna become what?
So yeah, Sinister escapes. The baby's dying, and Beast's like, I can't fix this. My only job is science, but I can't fix this. What good are you, Beast?
Yeah, shut up, nerd.
But Bishop's like, I can take the child.
We're going to the future.
We're going to the future, mother. He doesn't say that.
Rose, where we're going, we don't need Rose. Somewhere Rhodey's like, no.
We're going, we don't need Rose. I got a magic bracelet that takes me to the future.
And it looks like a 70s disco wheel.
And Cyclops is like, I can't abandon my son.
I've abandoned my boy. Daniel Day-Lewis should play Cyclops in the MCU.
Cyclops is like, I can't abandon my son. And then he's like...
Immediately abandons his son.
Bishop's like, you don't have a choice. So Bishop absconds to the future with baby Nathan. And then this was kind of... I did kind of enjoy this. Like, they kind of did our bit with Madeline Pryor when she goes to say goodbye to the X-Men and she comes across Jean and Jean's like, well, what do I call you? And she's like, you can call me Madeline Pryor.
Well, you're Madeline Pryor from the X-Men comics, aren't you?
So I was like, okay, that's kind of funny that she was just like, she just lays it on her. She's like, I'm Madeline Pryor.
All right.
And then we go back to Storm.
Mm-hmm.
BT Dubs. Storm is still sad about her powers.
She's having a little drink in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah,
nice.
Dallas, Texas, and then a mysterious man shows up with a flat top and a mustache.
Wait, like, flat top and a mustache? You must be forged from Marvel Comics.
And he literally says
this is the best show to do this bit. It's actually the best show we've ever had to do this bit.
He literally says as much.
Yeah. I'm forged from the X. No, he doesn't say the comics, but that would have been fun.
I'm Forge, a friend of Charles Xavier, and how would you like to get your Storm powers back? And she's like, I'm in.
Yeah, like, thanks. Obviously, yes.
And then we go to episode 4. It's Jubilee's birthday.
Yes, the Jubilee episode. Good.
The Jubilee / Life Death Part 1 episode, which, if this was not the show that it was, you probably split this into 2 different episodes.
Yeah, yep. I do think they had to keep this moving because of the tomfoolery we got in episode 5. They had to keep this story pushing, so.
Yeah.
How many episodes is this show? 10?
10, yeah. So it's Jubilee's birthday, and the X-Men want to celebrate, and Magneto is like, absolutely not.
We're training. Me and Rogue are going to train at a different time than you guys, but we're training.
We're going to the danger room. Everyone's going to the danger room, and Jubilee's like, absolutely not. I'm going to celebrate my birthday.
I want to go to the mall.
I'm going to celebrate with my friend Roberto.
My friend Roberto.
Yeah.
My will they, won't they Roberto.
They will. They did? They did in this episode.
They did.
Then they get sucked into a video game.
Yeah.
You're Mojo from Marvel Comics.
Yeah. I'm telling you, this bit is great for this show. I don't know. I quite like this. I had a lot of fun with this episode, and I think we needed some fun. You find out that in this episode that there's a virus in the game that keeps glitching out everything that Mojo's trying to do, and it's not future Jubilee. It's just
past Jubilee. Well, it's the
It's the Jubilee that kept breaking the game over and over and over again.
It's a meta thing.
Right,
Because
right.
Allison Court returns as Jubilee.
Right.
The older Jubilee,
Right.
Absissa. So Allison Court, for those of you who don't know, was the original voice actress for Jubilee in the 90s animated series. And they brought her back to play this older version of Jubilee, which was just tremendous.
And then the action's just so good.
She does some wicked things, and Jubilee's like, I can do that.
Yeah. That's what I really liked about this, too, is like 18th birthday, coming of... It's a great coming-of-age bit in this show. Like
For Jubilee and for Roberto as well.
Right. So, one of the things that this show does so well is every character feels like it's on some sort of path, or they mean something to something. It's not just people existing in the world, they're influencing the world or being influenced by the world. So, it's really well done. Again...
Spiral's there.
Spiral's... Why not?
Your Spiral for Marvel Comics.
Right.
Jubilee and Roberto and older Jubilee defeat Mojo. All's well that ends okay. They return to the real world. They're renewed. They're like, we learned a thing.
And I learned that I love you, Jubilee.
Roberto's gonna eventually go full Sunspot in one of these episodes. And then we get to the Storm portion of the episode, the life-death part, where Storm and Forge are bonding. And Forge is like, I can get your powers back. And he's real determined to do this.
Yeah. Suspicious. That don't seem suspicious.
They hang out for a bit. They ride horses. Storm grows fond of this owl that she's like, I've seen this owl. Like, he's stuck. Like, I'm stuck. And Forge is like, I can fix this.
Maybe the most beautiful episode, like, visually beautiful episode.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It's nice to look at.
And then we find out Forge's dark secret is that he was brought in by the Defense Department to build the mutant inhibitors that we've seen since the first episode, and that were partially responsible for taking Storm's powers.
Yeah, yep.
And she's like, you never wanted to actually fix me. You wanted me to be like your reclamation project and your redemption piece. And Forge is like, I love you. Where did that come from?
I don't know. Maybe that's the biggest sin that this show has committed so far.
Yeah, they kind of rushed this a little bit.
Right.
And then the owl brings her back, and then the adversary manifests.
You're the adversary from Marvel Comics. I love this show. Not looking good for Storm right now.
No, but it's gonna manifest in Storm's powers returning, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be real good, because all this leads to episode 5. Oh boy!
So back at the ranch.
Episode 5, titled "Remember It." So the X-Men it's looking things are
on the up and up.
I wouldn't say they're up and up, but like humans we're doing a news.
Well, yeah. It's essentially like people. These mutants aren't half bad. They protect us all the time. The X-Men protect us. They help out. As long as they're not hurting anybody, we're not hurting them.
Right.
Some of them are cool. Some of them have ruby quartz glasses.
Yeah.
Some of them are Beast, who's the Riz Lord. It's good stuff. So Genosha is becoming a UN certified nation, and who should be? What did they say? The Chancellor.
Yeah.
As soon as they said Chancellor, I said, "Ooh, I am the Senate." Beside the point. Magneto is going to be their choice to be the Chancellor and to lead Genosha. Good choice.
Yeah,
solid choice.
He's done some good work.
Yeah,
so far.
Who shall be his queen on Genosha? Shall be Rogue. It shall be Rogue.
Or Shallot.
Much to the dismay of Gambit,
which has been a running kind of through line the whole season.
Right,
like Gambit's. He just wants to love Rogue so bad.
Right. And
Magneto stepped in.
This whole episode is the macrocosm of why this whole show is running so well. It's because I'm going to spoil my word that I'm going to talk about this show, and one word to summarize it, it's balance. This show balances everything so incredibly well. It balances drama, comedy, action, stakes, like everything that you need to be, a credible television or just story in general. This show is balancing just exquisitely. So, they go to Genosha, all's well. Now I'm gonna get super nerdy at the end of this, but there's a council on Genosha.
Yeah.
There's one person at that council that really just flicked my brain. That was like the one where I was like, "Oof, what are you?" Moira McTaggart is at this council.
Yep.
Who she seems just to be a human mutant advocate. I'll save that. I'll save that for 1 second. Court will remember this. Basically, Court will remember this. Genosha looks cool.
Yeah, it's very peace, love, and happiness.
One of the best overlays of the show is Charles's dream.
Yeah.
You get that from the first second of the first episode all the way through. It's just Charles's dream. Keeps on keeping on. So yeah, they're on Genosha. We meet Nightcrawler. We see Banshee. The cameos are just cameoing.
Dazzler.
Dazzler's there. Back at the ranch, you see, Wolverine is talking to Jean. Jean's trying to put her memories back together. And Jean kisses Wolverine.
Yeah.
You SOB. How dare you? And I love Wolverine in this bit. I love it. He's like, nope, you're Jean Grey. That overgrown Boy Scout is Scott Summers. That's how this is going to work. That's how this works. This is the end of that. Yeah. Wolverine will not be having that. I love it. I love the way they play Wolverine in the show too.
Yeah.
Because they know how powerful of a force Wolverine can be because of Hugh Jackman. So they said, we don't need to flow any of this story through him. That's not the point.
Yeah.
Because they could have easily done that get.
And I know, and it's coming. Mm-hmm. Based on these episodes, Wolverine's going to get his shine.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not going to step on it too soon, but like Gambit's been kind of flying around in the background of these first 4 episodes, and then, man, does Gambit get some things in this episode that just elevate that character beyond comprehension. But going back to Scott, he's conflicted.
Yeah, he is conflicted. And again, this is, there's 2 major dialogue pieces that happen in this episode before like the third act of this episode. So it's the Jean and Scott one is a very important one, where they're kind of going back and forth, where, it's almost like, the compatibility matchmaker's not meshing. Like it's not form fitting to each other yet.
Because he had a baby with a different Jean Grey.
Right. And, in Jean's defense, it's a simple fact of like, what do you like? I'm the only reason I didn't go stay as the Phoenix. You're the only reason. So, because Scott asked, "Do you love me?" Or that line was woof. Do you love me or do you love the memory of me? Which one? Like, which one is it? And she said, "I'm the only reason why I'm still standing here and not perusing the cosmos as the Phoenix is because of you. So don't ask me if I love you."
Have you been talking to Madeline Pryor in telepathic dreamland?
That was our thing, Scott. Scott said, it wasn't my fault.
That was a tough look for Scott.
Yeah, not great. He
got caught. He got bagged.
Yep.
Man, it's such like because it's such a normal thing. And the fact that it's like telepathy when she was like, how long has this been happening?
Mm-hmm. Right.
He's like, not that long. Mm-hmm. Ever since she left, I just wanted to check up on her. Mm-hmm.
However, we keep chomping at the bits for Scott and, his character arc this whole season. And that's, I keep saying it, when the MCU does the X-Men, Scott needs to be the main character. Don't even put Wolverine in the first movie, in my opinion. It needs to be Scott. It has to run through him.
And he snaps a little bit.
Yeah, he does. He's starting to get to that, that astonishing X-Men and then beyond sort of phase of his existence where, the post-Phoenix Force Scott, where, he's more, again, it's the teachers that you have and the forms that you take. He was, he was on one end of the spectrum. It was the Charles Xavier way. And he was the surrogate son of Charles Xavier and of his vision. Now, the death happens. Magneto's tactics seem to be working because look what they've gotten under Magneto. They've gotten a nation under Magneto. They've gotten, peace and stability for a moment under Magneto. Just a teeny bit of acceptance, but the question gets asked from Scott, such a good moment. The reporter asked Scott, what about your son? And Scott's like, what son? I don't have a son. And she's like, these reports from a hospital said, and then he snaps and he goes, that whatever wouldn't deliver my baby. And then he loses it. And she says, so it is true. And he said, why didn't you, and then she like tells him to turn off the camera. He's like, if we're going to do this, you have to be truthful. And he said, why didn't you tell me about your son? Because, he's different. We are different from you. This man wouldn't deliver a child because he's a mutant. That's the simplicity of this. Like, I can't have him growing up in this world. obviously it was for different things, but normally he's right. That child would face hate from the second he was born until the second that he dies from somebody or something. That's a very horrible and scary world to live in.
Yep.
And you see the meter starting to tick a little bit towards Magneto's side, a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. It keeps starting to get there a little bit. And
I love what they're doing with Cyclops because what happens at the end of this episode, you feel is going to totally tip his scales to that other place, that dark place.
Yep.
And yeah, so we're on Genosha, and Magneto's basically giving his spiel to Rogue, essentially, like, about why we need to be king and queen of Genosha and this, that, and the other thing. And Rogue is kind of conflicted about it because, Magneto had told her once upon a time, like, this is not going to be a thing. Like, I can't have this be a thing. I can't let you distract me from my mission. And Rogue was like, okay, like, that's that. She finally tells all this to Gambit, and Gambit just...
I feel so bad for him, man.
I feel so bad for him, too, but he handles it in the best possible way. And he tells her, like, it's friends. Okay, we'll be friends.
Yeah, we can be friends. The moment, that moment just, it's so good. It's so well done. And the bit where she's just like, they're talking. She's just like, you said, I knew you were never going to make things official, but, I still stuck by your side. And she said, at the end of the day, like, as much as we like each other, like, I can't touch you. Like, I can't touch you, Remy. Like, I can't have a physical connection with you. And that's important. Is it important? And we're going to find that out the hard way at the end of this episode. Is it truthfully important? So,
yeah.
Big Met Gala.
Yeah.
Big Gen Gala?
Yeah.
Big Gen Gala. Lots of fun.
Lots of fun. People are having a good time. Magneto rocks up in a tux.
Is he the coolest guy ever?
Yeah, man. The hair's doing a lot. The hair's doing a lot of work, man. The hair and the gravitas. You can't be in charge of Genosha. You're a terrorist. Magneto's like, yeah? Tell that to every other nation whose leaders become terrorists.
Yeah, he said, I guess we're letting terrorists become, what did he say? Terrorists become politicians? He said, well, many countries' politicians get to be terrorists without any oversight. So,
another bar for Magneto.
Another bar. He just refuses to miss in this whole thing.
Yeah, Rogue shows up, and her and Magneto have a little fly dance.
It's basically their proclamation that they are together.
But
Jean walks out, or Madeline's outside. Madeline Pryor walks outside, and then your Cable from Marvel Comics just comes running through and said, "Shut the music off! Get everybody off the island!" You're like, "Oh, what's going on?"
Jean also feels this.
Right. Jean feels something's coming. And Madeline knows who Cable is, obviously from the regular show.
Yep.
Because they knew Cable was a person, but it's not until she looked into his eyes that she figured out. Dun dun dun. It's Nathan. You're Nathan Summers from Marvel Comics. So obviously their son, who turns into Cable, time slips, doesn't get there enough in time to stop this. You're the mutant massacre from Marvel Comics, man. So this happens at the 11-minute and 48-second mark in this episode.
It's a mutant massacre, all right.
What ensues after this is, as Martin Scorsese would say, peak cinema just ensues after this.
It's horrifying.
It is. It's absolutely horrifying. I mean, you could talk about what Brian DeMeo said about this too.
Yeah. So Bo DeMaio.
Oh, my bad. Yeah,
you're good. So Bo DeMaio has broken his Twitter social media silence since being let go. We still don't know the details of his departure or what transpired, but he is clearly passionate still about this show that he helped create. I just kind of want to read his statement in full because it's really poignant and really important, especially within the confines of this episode. So he has broken his social media silence basically to address episode 5 of X-Men 97, and I'll just read kind of what he put out. So Bo DeMaio on Twitter said, X-Men 97 spoilers ahead. A lot of questions, and so I'll momentarily break silence to answer. Episode 5 was the centerpiece of my pitch to Marvel in November 2020. The idea being to have the X-Men mirror the journey that any of us who grew up on the original show have experienced since being kids in the 90s. The world was a seemingly safer place for us, where a character like Storm would comment on how skin-based racism was quaint in one man's worth. For the most part, to our young minds, the world was a simple place of right and wrong, where questions about identity and social justice had relatively clear-cut answers. Then 9/11 happened, and the world turned against itself. Things weren't so safe anymore. Grassroots populist movements began to rise around the world as a whole nation struggled to deal with collective trauma and fracture at the seams of every diverse demographic. Parallel, see, I'm inserting, but parallel this attack on Genosha. Keep in mind what transpires in the episode while I'm reading this. The effects we still feel today and have only been exacerbated by more collective trauma like COVID or several recessions. For me personally, 9/11 was also when I came out of the closet to my family and realized not everyone would accept me. It's when I entered college and noticed that certain groups avoided me, or that a Supercuts in Tallahassee refused service to me because they didn't do ethnic haircuts. Reality, as Jubilee found out in episode 4, got very real and very scary. This happened to many people. We had kids and got jobs with high stakes. Suddenly, it wasn't enough for us to survive. We had responsibilities, and people whose survival depended upon us meeting those responsibilities. We were growing up. If you were like me, you would actually watch old episodes of the OG cartoon to comfort myself and take yourself back. God knows I did during COVID. But just like Roberto warned Jubilee, there's a danger of living in the past and clinging to nostalgia. There's a danger to not letting go of who we think we are, as Cyclops and Jean are learning. It leaves us stagnant and dangerously unaware of a future we didn't anticipate. Yes, it looked like Gambit's story was going a specific direction. The crop top was chosen to make you love him. Him pulling off his shirt was intentional. There's a reason he told Rogue any fool would suffer her hand in a dance, even if it ended up not being him suffering. But if events like 9/11, Tulsa, Charlottesville, or the Pulse nightclub teach us anything, it's that too many stories are often cut far too short. I partied at Pulse. It was my club. I have so many great memories of its awesome white lounge. It was, like Genosha, a safe space for me and everyone like me to dance and laugh and be free. I thought about this a lot when crafting this season and this episode, and how the gay community in Orlando rose to heal from that event. Like many of us who grew up on the OG cartoon, the X-Men have now been hit hard by the realities of an adult and unsafe world. Life's happened to them, and they, like we did, will have to decide which parts of themselves they will cling to and which parts they'll let go of in order to do what they've been telling humanity to do. Face an uncertain future they never saw coming. As Trask told Cyclops in the premiere, you have no idea what it's like to be left behind by the future. Now the X-Men do, and like each of us, they'll have to weigh whether this is a time for social justice, or as Magneto preached at his trial, is it a time for social healing? And that is Bo DiMaio, the showrunner of X-Men 97, commenting on episode 5.
I mean, the, summation of what you just said, ever present, once the bomb goes off, and,
And it's a shock drop, too.
Yeah.
Like, it's, the explosion goes off, and we see it from Rogue's point of view, where she gets hit, and she blacks out, and she wakes up to just terror.
Carnage.
Which is, he invokes the Pulse nightclub. Mm-hmm. That's what that kind of situation, obviously neither of us have been in that situation, but that's what that feeling of anarchy and chaos, and you don't know what's happening, you don't know what's going on,
and it's the juxtaposition to put it behind something, a safe space. I mean, this is a mutant gala to show the beauty of what mutants are, and that they are just people, just different. And for such an evil force to be presented to just their whole inception and their whole purpose is to destroy that piece of people that just want to be accepted is just, it's horrific and something that nobody should ever have to deal with. And, this is going to come up when the MCU takes the X-Men on, the whole idea that, the X-Men are, a political venture. I don't know if you've noticed, but they always have been a social commentary. It's been since the inception, from many of your Lord and Savior Stan Lee's mouth, that they have been the inception of this. That this is the whole purpose of the X-Men and what they are and what they will be. What Bo DiMaio is doing in this show is just, it's ever present. And what we get out of the last 12 minutes of this show is just, it's high stakes, high action. It's it's tough for me to even talk about, it feels wrong for me to talk about how cool this is because of what the backdrop is. This isn't supposed to be cool. This is reactionary to what's going on.
This is the X-Men equivalent of a mass shooting.
Yeah, this is just it's horrifying to have to look at this, and it's so sad. But Magneto, stands up and stands firm, and even the Morlocks who are underneath the ground, he said, "We're gonna." I just love how efficient Magneto operates in his mind, it shows for him how long he's been doing this for. Like, as soon as this happened, Magneto just took that deep breath and he said, "This is exactly what we're gonna do." Gambit, you're gonna go underground. You're gonna get the Morlocks out of there. We got to get everybody to the gardens. This is how we're gonna handle this.
Even one more life is too many, he tells Gambit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not losing anyone else. Like, we're saving all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yep. And then, your cool stuff happens. Like, the Morlocks are underground, and you hear the Sentinel coming, but it's just Gambit throwing the Sentinel through the window.
And Leech makes that callback to episode 2,
mm-hmm.
where he's, Magneto said, like, we'll all be safe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't have to worry. We don't have to be. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, you're right. Gambit rocks up. X-Men theme blaring behind him. Name's Gambit, he's, and he rescues the Morlocks, and then for what this episode does, and it's, equal parts cool and also tragic, is for every cool heroic moment, there's 4 or 5 just absolutely rip your heart out moments.
And there's just simple stuff of like, what's a perfect way they did it? It wasn't having some of your heroes die. It was some of the villains, but it was like, you see Sebastian Shaw, dead. Like, you just see him laid on the ground dead. And what that does in my mind, it shows like, this is where I think I'm going to talk about the House of X, the revamp of the X-Men in 2019, but you see him dead, and it's just like, I'm not thinking about villain Sebastian Shaw. I'm just thinking about mutant Sebastian Shaw that was just murdered in cold blood for being a mutant. That was his only problem, that he was a mutant. That was his only death sentence, is that he was just born a mutant. That was it. And it's a other worldly call out that Bo DeMaio makes about the Pulse nightclub. Like, that was the only thing that people were murdered for, was just being for just being different. That's what they were killed for. That's horrifying. So, obviously Magneto is just magnificent. He just is just doing anything and everything to protect the Morlocks, protect everybody in Genosha. The master mold is coming down, and it's just killing everything in sight. And they said, like, nothing's penetrating this thing. Magneto steps up and just takes the whole train system of Genosha and just uses it as a whip and just starts doing everything in its power. And not even that's enough, too. And then, God, man, oh man.
Yep.
He uses, his electromagnetic piece of his powers. He kind of puts a protective shield around him and the Morlocks, and, Omega level threat detected, and, unleashes all the power, and then, he's looking at Rogue trying to come save him, and, like, he holds Rogue and Gambit back. Like, I know what's about to happen. Like, I know even that little bit where they're doing the flashes for Magneto, and then the last frame is that piece from Auschwitz, and that last piece, it's just like, man.
And that's when you see when Leech looks up at him and he says in German, which is not as on purpose, him speaking in German, don't be afraid, because it invokes, the Holocaust. It invokes that fear in the face of inevitable death that so many millions of people faced in the Holocaust. And Magneto, I'm sure it's a line that was echoed to him by his parents, during the throes of the Holocaust, like, don't be afraid. And then that the Sentinel just presumably vaporizes them.
And Rogue's reaction is it's so raw. Immediately, full power just breaks from the little metal housing that Magneto is trying to protect them in. Immediately, full sprint at the Sentinel, and who comes and what's the episode title?
Remember it.
Who comes to be the absolute hero of this episode? No other than Gambit becomes the most important character in this episode. Gambit takes the motorcycle he was riding before, runs it right at Rogue, gets her out of the way before she's killed. Gambit rolls right up to the Sentinel, and, you know, he's just like, all right, I'm going to try to deal with this best I can, and is stabbed right in the side.
Pretty unceremoniously.
Yeah, it was so abrupt, too, and that's the thing. Everything is abrupt out of this thing. He's stabbed in the side, and
because
then
the Sentinel, it's in the comics, it's called the Wild Sentinel, which is it's a Sentinel that just keeps essentially building itself.
I'm gonna get there in a second. I'm gonna get there.
out of other pieces. So
Right.
it's this monstrous.
Yeah, it's like you see the size of the Sentinels, like themselves.
Gambit calls it a Godzilla-sized Sentinel.
Right, and he's right, because like the normal Sentinels that are like 10 times the size of a person just start descending out of the Sentinel just to start destroying stuff.
And it's this just horrific amalgamation. It's got 3 heads.
Yep, it looks like a kaiju. Yep.
Yeah, and it hits Gambit with like this piece of like, I guess like a piece of like rebar wire. Hits Gambit in the side.
And then Gambit.
And then the Sentinel says, mutant threat neutralized. And then Gambit. And what's going to go down is one of the most iconic lines in that Marvel Studios has ever put to script, in my opinion. You know, the name's Gambit, mon ami. And then he ignites the piece of rebar and the sound design on this scene is incredible.
Sometimes, you know, it's a simple trick, and like that's why I said filmmaking's half visual, half auditory. Like, drown any music out, any score music, let it be.
The sound of Gambit's powers igniting, that like lighting up the different pieces of the Sentinel, and then it closes back in on Gambit, and he kind of smirks and he goes, "Remember it," and then big explosion. Just destroys the Sentinel. And then we cut back to the X-Mansion. Cyclops is beside himself. He's going, how many? And again, invoking that like mass shooting terrorist attack imagery of like the news, you know, people watching at home, news broadcasters saying, you know, the images we're about to show you are disturbing. You know, no matter where, what side you fall on the political spectrum, like the images you're about to see are disturbing. Tragedy, Genosha, like it sinks your heart because it's so, as the X-Men often do, it's such a mirror to reality. And like, you know, how many times I've been in that situation watching a tragedy like that unfold and you know, sitting with the senselessness of it. And that's what this is. It's a senseless massacre of a certain group of people. Like you're seeing the through line here. Like it's a targeted massacre of a group of people. Like this happens in real life. So I think that's, you know, why it was so subconsciously affecting to me. Like just I sat there watching the end of this episode just almost like I was watching another one of those things happen, even though like it's fiction, but like it was so well replicated.
It's because it's so abrupt. There's no you know, cinematic sense of, you know, of music in the background, and like once the last like 6 minutes hit and it's just on. Like you have to see, you know, these people rushing in to protect and knowing that they're going to risk their lives, much as Magneto just did and gave his life to have one child feel safe in his arms one last time before, you know, they inevitably leave this world. Gambit's sacrifice, like all these things are true things that happen. So, and I mean, just an absolutely devastating piece where Rogue finds out that A, she did love Remy, and B, Remy was right. This isn't about physical touch. Some things are beyond that. Like I told you, I loved you regardless of if I can touch you or not. That never mattered to me. And it's just I can't feel you. And then the episode just ends, and just the saddest version of the X-Men theme plays, and you're like, ooh, this one hurt. This one hurt.
Yeah, it's one of the most powerful episodes of TV I can remember, man. It's so poignant, it's so relevant, it's so real, and it's just, you know, once that bomb drops, that literal and metaphorical bomb drops, like your mind is transported away from the fiction, and immediately like you recognize all these scenes from real life. And it makes everything just feel that much more weighty and real because you're seeing things play out in this animated superhero show that you've seen play out in real life time and time and time and time again too often. And it hurts. It hurts because these are superheroes and they're supposed to be immune to this type of stuff. Like they're
not always find a way to save the day, but unfortunately, not for the X-Men. That's usually not how it goes. How many times in the comics have once you get into Claremont's run, that's where it really starts to hit the head. I mean, the biggest one in Claremont's run is God Loves, Man Kills, where, you have William Stryker literally going in front of a UN panel saying, "Look at Nightcrawler. Like, this is you can't call this thing a human. You cannot call this thing something." And like, unfortunately, that's real. Like, that's real things that have happened.
Yep.
So, I mean, just what an episode of television. Period. I don't care the way it's packaged in an animated show, quote unquote, for kids. Like, it does not matter. This is just an exceptional and heartbreaking episode of television.
And Bo DeMaio also said, like, hey, if you thought episode 5 was crazy, like,
yeah, apparently the last 3 episodes are just off the rails bonkers.
And just looking at the episode titles, episode 8, 9, and 10 all come with the same title. So it'll be a 3-part, essentially, finale. Tolerance is Extinction. is the 3-episode finale arc. And we're getting episode 6 will be Life Death Part 2, which will be the conclusion of Storm's arc. Episode 7 is called Bright Eyes, which literary brain makes me think of Cyclops.
Yeah, sure. Maybe some Sunspot as well.
Maybe, yep. And then 8, 9, and 10, Tolerance is Extinction, which promises to probably be pretty weighty, I would say. Man,
this show is exceptional.
So good. I struggle to like just think of other things to say about it other than how exceptional it is, and just if you can push through the fact that it's animated and give it a chance, you're gonna be blown away. Truly, like from minute 1 of episode 1, like
you kind of knew that something special was afoot, and it hasn't ceased to be great this whole time. It's mature when it needs to be. It's funny when it needs to be. Like I said, the word I'd use to describe this show is balanced. This show is perfectly balanced.
Yeah.
Wow, what a show!
It's just beyond. At a time when, not a time, but like you truly just wonder sometimes when it comes to like Marvel Studios, like this is the type of thing that you've had in your back pocket this whole time. Like this is the type of quality, like not just technical quality, but literary quality, like writing quality, character design and execution. Like this is the type of stuff you've had this whole time, and you've been hiding it behind just occasional nonsense, and you've been hiding stuff like this.
I mean, I told you so, and this is my thing for because I still think what's the best project that we got out of Phase 4 Beyond. I still think it's Guardians. It's either Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and an argument can maybe be made for Black Panther 2. Like, those two things feel the most, like, actual. Yeah. And it's funny to say that for a Guardians of the Galaxy movie that feels actual, but I look at, some movies like, you take Logan, for example, and, like, I'm not saying I need that out of those, but I'm not saying in the terms of I need movies that are dark and gritty like that for the superhero genre. I'm saying I don't know how some of these movies have these budgets, and then this is what we're getting, but then you get into this realm, and this is what, like, I hate to keep using this as the example, but obviously the most recent movie that we saw in theaters was Dune 2. That was the most recent movie we saw, and that movie's operating with 190 million, maybe 180 to 190 million in budget, and that's what you're getting. Like, that movie is just absolutely gorgeous times 1,000. And then storytelling wise, you're getting something like X-Men 97. I just, at this point, I don't think that the live action MCU has an excuse to be lacking visually or story. There's just no excuse anymore. And I told you the kids that we were growing up watching these things, we're now adults. You can't just put something out anymore. You can't just put something out and just let the namesake be the thing.
Yeah. And I think people are responding to this, and people are like, oh, well, you can't just expect this at everything because it's an animated thing. Like I said, I'm not even talking about the technical stuff, man. I'm just talking about the writing. The writing compared to like some of the other stuff they've done is just beyond.
Yeah, I mean, we just joked about, the way that the Echo finale ended. Like, that's just not good character development for somebody. Like, we know that he killed his father. Like, we know that.
Yeah.
Like, and he just walked back into the Escalade and that's not good finale story. Like, there's no stakes. Like, all the stakes go away. Like, there's no feeling of threat or anything at that point. Like, this is the halfway point of this show, and this is how we're operating through halfway of this show.
Yeah, and the fact that they built, and when you're just talking about the layers of what they did and what culminated in episode 5, like I said up top, like all the Gambit Rogue stuff was kind of built in the background of all these other episodes. And then episode 5, when they were like, okay, we cook this kind of subplot in the background of these first 4 episodes, and now episode 5, whoosh, we're
Next
pushing it to
week's
the
gonna
forefront.
do the same thing for Storm. Like, this it's so good. This season had Storm at her highest high and her lowest low. Like, it had both of them. So once we get what this new version of Storm's gonna look like, there's not going to be like this, well, I wish that, no, we got everything we needed. Like, we saw Storm the most powerful, and we saw Storm at her lowest.
Yeah.
Her lowest was human, unfortunately. Like, that was her lowest. And
because, one of the things that triggers her, going back to that Life Death episode, is when Forge says, like, powers be damned. Mm-hmm. And, like, you see her eyes, like, she's like, what do you mean, like, powers be damned?
Yeah, and it's the show operates in these smaller conversations from points to points for pieces. And then that goes back to that episode 2 conversation that she has what we thought was Jean at that point, but that she has with Madeline. Like, man, like, being a mutant, it's me. It's not the power that it comes with. It's just, this is Aurora Monroe. This is who I am. Like, I am a person because of this. I wouldn't have met any of you without this. Like, don't tell me my powers don't matter. Like, you took away a part of, like, you took away my identity. You stripped it.
And in Forge's case, you were somewhat complicit.
And responsible.
Yeah.
And responsible for this.
Yeah.
So, man, and this is a kid's show, quote unquote.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the kid show thing,
It's gone at this point. It's gone.
Yeah, it's gone, and it really went out the window with the Magneto UN scene.
Yeah, yep.
Is when you realize, no, they're operating on a bit of a higher plateau than just this is a fun kids thing. Like, this is adult, and this is mature, and it deserves to be discussed as such, because in this episode, like I said, just the last 20 minutes or the last 15 minutes or so just invoked a bunch of different things that I wasn't prepared for it to invoke. And, we'll see how the rest of the season pans out, but I'm not expecting this to be the last time this show makes me feel something. I'm really not. Like, I'm in. I'm all the way in. Like, I'm in. There's really no other thing I need to say about it. And I just hope they look at this and look at the reception it's getting specifically from a writing lens, and just realize, like, no, like, our audience is asking for a little bit more than maybe what we've been giving them.
Yeah, like,
lately.
I mean, I hate to keep using this movie as the one, but, like, the days where we get told that a movie like Quantum Mania costs $300 million, my next question is going to be why. Like, why does this movie cost so much? Like, Gareth Edwards is making these high budget movies that look just, and he's using visual. It's not like he's not using any visual effects. He's using visual effects too. Yeah. Denise using visual effects. Like, Gareth obviously, made a big budget Star Wars movie, but it looks gorgeous. Like, those movies look absolutely gorgeous. So, like, why are we getting that out of that? Where you have people that can make this, and this is not just the standard of what you're getting. Obviously, tones will change. Deadpool's tone should be very different from something as...
For sure. Sure.
It's not a fact of tone. It's a fact of, it's a fact of quality. That's all that I think we're asking for. I think we're asking for a little bit of continuity and a little bit of quality. Because, you know, let's just look around the realm. The way that The Boys is operating, like, the storytelling's it's just better at this point. You know, you go to the DC side of things, you look at Peacemaker, the storytelling's just better at this point. Like, but what are all those shows have in common? There's one through line they all have in common. Their characters are all fleshed out, and they're all complex, and there's no simplicities that they're taking character-wise. There's no tonal confusion. We don't know what we're doing. Like, they know exactly what they're making. I feel like some of these Marvel projects and these DC, like, we're going in and they don't know it's corporatized. It's like they don't know what they're going in to make.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. So we'll see. We'll see if they hear what's being put out there about this X-Men show.
Wasn't I supposed to talk comic stuff?
Yeah.
Cassandra Nova's coming. Or Professor X's evil sister. That's where, I mean, the Mutant Massacre was from that new X-Men run. You got that. It's probably her. He's definitely coming back this season. There's no shot that they don't bring Professor X. He's gonna come back from space and be like, the heck happened?
Captain America?
Yeah, Captain America apparently is going to be in this season, which is going to be awesome. He was in the original show too, so that's going to be fun.
What the heck is going on here? He's going to say.
Yep. And all right, so this is what I think they're doing. So 2019, I hadn't read comics for a little bit. I finally picked it, and I was like, I needed a through line to go to the comic book store and pick something up. Luckily enough, the X-Men said, we're starting again. We're starting over. Brand new X-Men #1 with one of the greatest comic writers of all time, Jonathan Hickman, leading the charge. I'm in. I'm immediately in. So, remember, Court will remember this. Button has just been pushed. Moira McTaggart's in that room on the council. So, the big thing that happens in the 2019 House of X story is you find out that Moira McTaggart's actually a mutant this whole time, and nobody knew about it. Reason nobody knows about it is because every time she dies, the universe resets every single time. So what she does is the first time that she dies, she's like, ooh, why am I alive as a baby again? This is weird. She just thought it was more deja vu. The second time she happens, she's like, oh, no. Something's up. I have to be a mutant. I'm going to go find Charles Xavier. And then you get the 60s X-Men, essentially. Second time through, this would be the third time through. I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to go seek out Magneto. Not going to work. Fourth time through, I'm going to go get Professor X and Magneto. Uh-oh, there's other villains afoot. Can't do it. And then she kind of comes to the conclusion that it's not an X-Men versus Brotherhoods versus Sinister versus Morlocks versus anybody else. It needs to be one united mutant front. That's the only way that this whole thing is going to work. I do think this is where this show is going, and I was a little fenced about it, and then Magneto died, and I was just like, ooh, I feel like it's coming. They're gonna do the whole Krakoa thing, and she's gonna reset everything back, and they're gonna do, because that run was just the biggest deal for Marvel Comics at the point. Obviously, they spoiled it a bit because, too much of a good thing is a bad thing, so they just ran the whole run into the ground, unfortunately. But when that run was good, it was great. And I mean, what you can do essentially is like, the X-Men won't die, essentially. That's what they kind of did. They made Krakoa, and when they send the episode, Genosha's going to be in UN Nation, and then Genosha is essentially destroyed. Krakoa can come out of that ruin and become the new nation, and then again, like I said, like, there's no Apocalypse versus the X-Men, there's no Sinister first, it's just it's a mutant nation. This is all we're doing. All we want is sovereignty, and that's it. So I have a weird feeling that they're going to try to do Moira's going to reset everything for them, and then they're going to get another crack at this. Another Krakoa at this.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. I think they're much like the original animated series did. They're just picking little bits and pieces of these major comic arcs, and then eventually, boom.
And what did we just get in this one? We got one from the new X-Men, so it came out after the show was over. So the 2000 is when the new X-Men, Grant Morrison's new X-Men came out. Obviously, you're gonna get some Phoenix stuff from the comics, like the actual like Avengers vs. X-Men things. This show wouldn't do that.
Avengers vs. X-Men?
Ooh.
Unless they want to tease a little bit with whatever Captain America does in this, and do a little bit of that. I could see that happening.
That would be interesting.
Because, I mean, that would be a natural point of contention. Like, if Cap shows up and the rest of the X-Men are like, what's going on? Like, what?
Yeah.
You guys are supposed to be, like, the good guys, right? Like, where were you guys when our people were getting massacred?
Yeah. There's no response time for the X-Men, or for us, just because we're so, like, if you guys had something go on, guess who's probably showing up? Us. We're probably going to show up. And it's something Scott says in the episode. He's like, how many times do we keep having to protect you to prove that we get, like, that we care? Like, we're not these monsters.
So I think Captain America's insertion into this is going to be a little more than just a cameo. I think it could be a really nice point of contention, and it could also be a really nice meta commentary too on like the state of Marvel Studios as well. Like, where the X-Men are like, you might be the Avengers, but we're like the heart and soul of this whole damn universe. Like, you guys can't just show up and save the day and be the Avengers. Like, you're not with us in the trenches, you know what I mean? So I think that could be... I think the show has earned enough gravitas where if they're going to bring in a Captain America, it's going to be very intentional and very purposeful. So I think that could be definitely something they, roundabout explore for sure.
Sure. Man, what a show.
Yeah.
What a show. Just some quality. That's all we're asking for. Just some...
I mean, man, it's beyond my wildest imagination of what it, even when they first announced it, I'm like, oh, sick.
It's just like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
We don't know what this is going to be. And then the first episode happened.
Give me the theme song.
Yeah. Then the first 2 episodes happened. Just give them the forecast.
And we were like, wait a second.
Like, this is like cool, right? And then the second episode happens, and they're like, oh wait, this is like emotional.
There's something happening here.
This is like truthfully remarkable.
Yeah. And then it just kept going and going, and
I'm literally watching reactions of people watching episode 5 and like crying at the end of this episode.
Like, I want to say it's culminating in this, but it's not. It's not culminating in whatever episode 5 was.
No.
There's way more coming. Like, this was, Bo DeMaio is to be believed. This is kind of just the beginning. Like,
I don't know why he was fired particularly.
And I don't know.
Unless he did something and nobody's saying anything about if he did something. Obviously, if he did something, he needs to be held accountable. But if he didn't outright do something... Better make that call, because, man, not only do you make the call, you maybe, obviously, I don't know if he directs I don't know his directing prowess, if he's done it before, but you might be needed to ask some questions live action, not just for the X-Men, just in storytelling, because this guy's got a gift.
He at least understands the X-Men.
And I'm sorry, that's such an important piece to understand, is he's understanding why. It's not what the X-Men, he's understanding the why the X-Men. He's literally understanding the core fundamentals that Stan Lee put this thing on. And Claremont really revolutionized. He's understanding all those things.
And it does feel like, after this episode, not that I've ever been the type of person to be like, you need to explain your decisions, but like, Marvel's going to start hearing from fans and being like, what's going on with this guy? Yeah. Like, why did you fire him?
Not only why did you fire him, maybe he needs to be one of the people that's calling some shots around here.
We got to clear up that confusion. Like, we just have to at this point, because people are going to keep clamoring for it if this quality keeps accelerating, and Marvel's going to have to make a move.
Yeah, because
people are going to, unless they, come out and say, look, this is what he did, this is why we let him go, and that's a reason, and so people can be like, okay, look, we really love his work, but he had to go. We understand that. But if they're just going to keep up this secret like he's gone, but also he's gonna put out statements about the show and be proud
really
of it.
Impactful statements as well.
And people are gonna resonate with that. So people are gonna keep asking questions. So I feel like we're gonna get to the point with this guy where Marvel's gonna have to explain themselves, or he's gonna have to explain what happened. Someone's got to say something here, unless there's some type of weird non-disclosure something happening.
So that could be a thing. That could
where no one can talk about it until maybe they haven't litigated some type of severance for him yet, like in terms of like monetary. Like maybe they haven't agreed to anything yet, which is possible. But
oh boy, does he understand the X-Men.
The more this quality enhances, the more people are going to ask questions. And I'm also starting to ask those questions because clearly this is a really brilliant, at least as far as the X-Men are concerned, a really brilliant mind.
It was to the point where it was during episode 2, during that Magneto monologue from episode 2, and I was just like, well, now you have your writer for the X-Men movies. Like, there's no if, and, or but who should be writing these X-Men. Like, don't overthink this. When you go to find who's going to write it's Bo DeMaio needs to write the X-Men movie. Like, there's nobody else. Like, he's understanding it this well. There's just no if, and, or but. He's got to write these movies.
So his credits are pretty short list of credits. He's written for After the Storm, which is a short film. He was the story editor, executive story editor, and writer on the originals. He was a writer on a couple of League of Legends shorts. He was a writer of 2 episodes of The Witcher. He wrote 1 episode of Moon Knight. So he's not. He wrote episode 3 of Moon Knight, season 1, episode 3 of Moon Knight. He wrote 2 episodes of Star Trek: Brave New World, and obviously he is the head writer for X-Men '97. So I'd have to revisit that Moon Knight episode. I'm not familiar.
That's the episode where they go to get something.
Cool.
That's not descriptive. That's just Indiana Jones.
They go to get something.
It's where him and Maya, I'm saying her real name.
It was...
it's the one, the actor that passed away, sadly.
This is when Mark and Layla go to Cairo.
Right.
Good episode.
I did enjoy that. Isn't that where they do the time reset at the end?
This episode has a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I might need to rewatch Moon Knight because I feel like Moon Knight had something in there where that Moon Knight was battling between the studio versus the thing. And you know how I have the weirdest way to tell. You know how I can tell? The fact that Ethan Hawke even remotely said yes to a project like this.
Yeah.
There's something in Moon Knight that was like, this is going to be different from everything else.
Yeah. So yeah, X-Men.
Watch it.
We'll continue to monitor this. We'll see what happens, and maybe next week we'll touch upon it. But unless it floors us again, which it could, next week we fully plan on talking about Invincible. That's our plan. We're going to recap. Good season. Lost a little momentum, a little big bow. That'll be definitely part of our discussion. The ill-timed break that it took in season 2. But led to a really great finale.
Yeah. Oof. I thought you were stronger.
Phew. They did it. They did the thing.
They did do the thing.
I figured for our What We've Been Doing segment, we just talk a little bit about Fallout.
Yeah. We both just watched Fallout.
Episode 1.
Yeah, like a couple hours ago.
Full season's out.
Yeah.
So after recording this, I'm going to jump in and watch as much of this season that I can, and then probably finish it tomorrow. Really good, man.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
It's
so good.
It is exactly what I thought we were gonna get when I saw the trailers. It is this weird, off-putting, unhinged, retrofuturistic black comedic type of delivery. Something isn't quite right, but you can't quite put your finger on what isn't quite right.
The backdrop of the 50s music behind it, it's so weird. I love it. It's like a weird little guy. I love it.
It is a weird little guy. And I love this first episode so much. They do a really nice job of, the framing, from what I can gather. I haven't seen this whole season. It appears we're going to be following 3 main characters here. So, in order of appearance, Walton Goggins is the first of these main characters. He is playing the Ghoul, but he's also playing Cooper Howard, who was a once highly famous Hollywood actor and was caught up in the original dropping of the bombs in 2077 and morphed into this gunslinger known as the Ghoul. And we don't know a whole ton about the Ghoul at this point of episode 1, other than he's foul-mouthed and he's quick on the trigger.
Mm-hmm. Put Walter Goggins in the Red Dead Redemption movie as well.
Yeah, he looks good in a hat, even though he's a little deformed.
Yeah.
So not a lot is known about the Ghoul. Definitely the least amount of screen time and character development. We have Maximus, another main character who is a member of the Brotherhood of Steel. Ingratiated himself into very Mandalorian upbringing. The Brotherhood of Steel, very religious kind of. They're fanatics for the technology. He who controls the technology in the wasteland rules supreme. Not a lot known about Maximus. He's going on a journey to hunt some guy.
Mm-hmm. I think an important thing that a first episode should do is you have to give enough, but you still have to be ominous enough. And I think this perfectly teeters that line. You know, the ominous nature can come from the world, and what that can kind of propagate is the hero's journey. And I think this episode is a perfect example of what a hero's journey can do. And I'm most intrigued maybe by Maximus. I just love how I love how disgusting that part of the world feel, but also so there's what I'll say, there's this sense of uniformity around anything, but you made a good point. It's there's something wrong with everything, and they show you what's wrong. I mean, spoilers ahead, I guess, but made a joke about the Red Wedding. They do it in this episode, this perfect 1950s-esque wedding. Obviously it's in a nuclear bunker, but yeah. It's seemingly perfect. It's acquitted to their world. That's what I'll say. It's perfectly ingratiated in their world. Everything's going good.
That's our third main character, is Al Purnell's Lucy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she's really good. She's quite great.
She's perfect as the point of view character, the vault dweller, the lone wanderer, who is going to embark on this hero's journey outside the confines of Vault 33.
And this is where the show's just going off the hinges. Wedding ensues and just anarchy.
Yep.
Anarchy follows.
Yeah, because she wants to. She can't find a suitable mate in her vault, which I have a weird theory about why that is, and it's kind of alluded to the fact that they're all potentially somewhat inbred.
Yeah,
Vault 33.
Yep.
Besides her and her father,
right?
Because there's this hilarious sequence where she gets approved for marriage to Vault 32, which, so in the Fallout universe, all the vaults are revealed to be social experiments by Vault Tech. I have a theory regarding 32 and 33 that they're these neighbor vaults that are a social experiment in kind of trade and commerce. Because it seems like they can move freely between 32 and 33, but neither of them can get to the outside world. Just a theory. It's one episode. I don't know. So I just have a theory about that. But yeah, so she applies for a marriage to a Vault 32 resident that's approved. We get to the wedding. She finds her husband. He's really handsome, and they get to her place and they have sex, and she's like, oh, we're going right to this. Okay. And then she awakes to screaming, and then she pulls out her Pit Boy and points it at her husband, and the Geiger counter starts clicking, and that's when it hits her. You're not from Vault 32. You're from the outside world. You're raiders. And then massacre ensues of Vault 33.
it's jarring. Lord, it's jarring.
Yeah, this colorful, kind of wacky world, and then a massacre unfolds, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
she gets stabbed.
He gets his face cut open.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
Her pregnant friend gets stabbed in the eye. Like, it's just anarchy.
Guy gets cut in half.
Guy gets cut in half.
The vault door.
Jesus, it's just ugh.
But it never loses that wacky.
It's a touch. It's like a touch of something that just holds it together.
Yeah.
It's like that one little spice you got to throw in, and then
Her father is kidnapped by the former residents of Vault 32. And that embarks her on her hero's journey outside Vault 33. Mm-hmm. Her cousin and her brother are like, you can't go outside the vault. It's crazy. We'll help you. And she's like, you can't. I got to do this alone. I'm the lone wanderer from Fallout. I'm Lucy Lone Wanderer.
I'm Lucy Fallout.
I'm Lucy Fallout. And she, presumably these three characters are gonna, the clip they released a couple weeks ago is, I believe these three characters literally coming across one another. Lucy runs afoul the ghoul in one of the towns where she's kind of mocked. Lucy's kind of mocked for her plucky, go-get-'em vault dweller attitude because she hasn't been hardened yet by the wasteland. I'm in. Mm-hmm. I'm chomping at the bit to go check out the rest of these episodes. I think it's smart to do this whole thing at once because you don't know. You don't know if people are going to stick around for this type of thing.
It's tough when, it's a video game that's very, open to the point of, there's not a definitive, let's just take like The Last of Us. Like The Last of Us is a definitive story. Like Fallout, you can do a whole bunch, and I think the show uses that to the advantage.
Yeah,
because you can kind of have a little bit of fun. Now you can kind of do what you need to do and what you want to do. Yep,
and Lucy's kind of, as the vault dweller, the protagonist, she's kind of blank slatey, and the story will shape her as it sees fit, which I think is really cool, and I'm really excited to see the rest of it.
Much like a main character in a story.
Yeah. Yeah,
she's got big main character energy, but like the good kind.
Yeah, yeah. I can't wait to see how. I can't wait to see. That's the cool part about the Fallout story is how this isolated kind of person upbrought in this, this vault, this sheltered life, literally sheltered life, is now exposed to the horrors of the whatever wasteland they are exposed to, be it, Fallout 3's Vault Dweller with the Capital Wasteland, Fallout 4's Vault Dweller with the Diamond Wasteland, the New England Wastes, or in Lucy's case, the California Wastes. I'm really keen to see what happens. And I feel like I think they already said there's going to be a season 2. I think that's already happening. Would not be surprised to see that become weekly.
Yeah.
After this, I could see them letting a second season of this breathe after they kind of took a chance and put all of season 1 out there for the world to consume. And this was a release date that kept getting moved up up until...
They had to have been proud of it. They had to have been like, this show was a hit. So they had to have known.
Jonathan Nolan of Chris Nolan fame and of Westworld fame. Directed...
This is a perfect Westworld surrogate show that Jonathan Nolan can kind of take and kind of do some fun, have some fun.
And I know
with.
He's the producer of the entire season. I think he directed the first 3 episodes. First 3 episodes, I think he directed, and he did direct this pilot. Super cool. So... yeah, that's going to do it for us this week. You can follow us on Twitter at ProjectINF_pod. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram
at the Project Infinite Pod.
And next week, we're going to talk about Invincible, unless X-Men 97 blows our doors off again, which it could. Life Death Part 2, so the conclusion of Storm's arc that will most likely see her get her powers back and her hair back, her old hair.
I hope so.
Storm hair.
Maybe.
Looks like it's coming back. And we'll apparently get the Fallout for the Genosha stuff too, which will...
I see what you did there.
Fallout. And we'll see, most likely, the X-Men properly mourn Gambit, which will be a tough watch, I'm sure. So for me, from the...
Careful, man. Careful.
Oof. Lot to choose from this week. Man. We'll say...
from the ominous main character of the Fallout universe.
The lone wanderer of the podcast.
I'll take it.
Yeah. And then, probably the week after Invincible, we'll probably just do Fallout.
Sure.
The whole season.
I'm down. I'll be here.
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
We will be seated.
I'm not kissing you.
Tommy Lee Jones, man.
We're actually not going to just talk about Captain America vs. Avenger. We're just going to specifically talk about Tommy Lee Jones' performance. Tommy Lee Jones, new whiteboard inductee. Specifically in Captain America, the First Avenger.
He's underrated in that, man.
What did he tell him when he was talking about Bucky? He's just
I can spell.
James Buchanan. He said, I can spell.
I can spell.
Me and you are going to have a conversation that you will not like.
Me and you are going to have a conversation later that you won't enjoy. Tommy Lee Jones, man. He's the best.
He's good.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week for Invincible. Until then, goodbye.
I did not kill you. Now you put that gun down now.
Harrison Ford brought back as Captain America.
Oh,
Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones both the Captain America movies now.
It's the fugitive reunion that I always wanted.
Beautiful.
I'll get Wesley Snipes back as Blade in like a multiversal setting, and then we're good.
Oh man. All right. Goodbye.
Peace.